I'm John.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Mint One podcast,
where we talk all things Web3 and the rise of blockchain gaming.
So, Rob, my 2-year tenure at AtomicHub has come to an end.
It has, and there's been some sort of gag order, and now we can lift it. So let's hear the story.
Okay, before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on Apple or Spotify, a 5-star podcast review would be fantastic. And you can follow us on Twitter at Mint1Pod. So, I've been keeping this news quiet for almost 2 months at this point. But
there wasn't a gag order. Sorry, just for legal reasons. It wasn't a gag order.
Hooked you in though, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, I haven't been part of the pink.gg AtomicHub NFT Insider kind of circle for almost 2 months now. And I figure it's about time to, now that it seems that the dust has settled on obviously Wombat / Spielworks purchasing AtomicHub, it's kind of time for me to talk about my time and what's going on and what the hell I'm going to do next. And probably just some insights into what it was like being a part of the AtomicHub machine is not a nice way of putting it, but you know what I mean. It was it started off as 2 people and then grew to over 30, and now we've all dispersed out into the world, and it's the tale of how a lot of Web3 is going right now. I think it seems the Web3 as an industry is hemorrhaging people. But yeah, it's I think it's time to talk about it. So
I mean, I have a lot of questions. So
I'm sure you do.
We're going to do the very unusual format of me interviewing you. I thought this would only happen if one of us got wrapped up in some sort of scandal, but we avoided.
Well, it could still happen, you know.
Yes. I was going to reference a current British celebrity that's in a scandal.
Oh, let's not.
Seems unseemly to bring him up. We'll leave him to one side. Yes, this isn't a scandal, but it is interesting, particularly if you are in the wax / mainly wax, really, because that was where the foothold, where the foundations was built for pink.gg. So if anyone who doesn't know, pink.gg is kind of the umbrella company that had AtomicHub, NFT Insider, and what other products?
Eventually Atomic Ads. Technically the Atomic Assets Standard was under that as well. So all of that was under pink.gg. Pink was also a block producer, the highest ranked block producer for Wax. I don't know whether Wombat taken that over. I don't think you'll know. I don't think anyone really knows yet. At the moment, we just don't have those guys as a block producer, which is really sad. Pink was the strongest guild in the Wax ecosystem by quite a large margin. I don't think anyone would disagree with me on that front. They were doing so much for Wax. So let's start right at the beginning here. Sure.
How did you end up with pink.gg?
Good question. So started NFT Insider, I've told the story before, but just to paraphrase, around April 2021, just on my own, made some drop calendars for the emerging artists on the Wax blockchain.
That was amazing. Just as an aside, I don't like complimenting people. I don't like complimenting people to their face. I
don't like receiving compliments, so this is going to work.
But we're going to struggle through this. I think one of the biggest, or certainly, no, I'd say one of the biggest losses to the community, the Wax community, about this whole thing is the drop calendars that you were doing. I think they were so good for so many people, and it become kind of an aspiration of the artists coming into the space, like to get onto your drop calendar. They were so popular, and obviously losing. I mean, we haven't lost the marketplace; it's still running. Wombat's still running it, so the user didn't really lose all that much, or ostensibly didn't lose all that much. Whereas that drop calendar, not having that drop calendar, I think is a real kick. And if I could be asked, I would take it over, but I cannot be, and I don't know how you did it for so long, because it looked rough to put together.
It was rough at times to do, if I'm brutally honest. 2 years of working Sundays, several hours every Sunday to put those together. It's not a task I would kind of expect anyone to pick up once I'm now I've stopped doing them. I mean,
NFC
Horizon have their weekly calendars, and they're probably the best alternative now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Sorry, carry on. I just wanted to.
It was bizarre to have my Sundays free.
Yeah,
it felt very odd when I didn't do one for the first time. But anyway, so yeah, started doing those job calendars. I think a couple of months passed by. I started interviewing people on the Wax blockchain. Some of the artists started talking more about blockchain games and some of the things coming up and what was happening in the Wax blockchain space, all that cool stuff. And my first interaction with anyone at AtomicHub properly, kind of outside getting the NFT Insider collection whitelisted and all of that, was Creek. I am fairly certain Creek isn't around in the community anymore. He's not been
I don't know who that is.
Seen in ages. He used to do the Crypto Moonies collection. These little 3D figurines and boxes that were kind of cool, very popular at the time. But his collection got de-whitelisted for, I think someone was trying to imitate the collection, and then someone on the support side got kind of mixed up and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the community was up in arms, and I was one of the people that DM'd the AtomicHub page being like, how could you do this? This is ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. And that was my first ever interaction with Jonah. It was basically me and him having an argument about this collection being de-whitelisted.
Do you know how often that happens, where you criticize something and you end up getting just as a little aside for people that are looking to find work. So this week, one of my writers for in a different industry heavily criticized Adobe for their changes with their AI tool, where they're going to charge you for the AI tool. And he wrote a scathing article. They've flown him to LA. Like, you get rewarded for being critical of people.
Wow.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up. So, so you criticized Jonah as your first interaction. Sure.
Basically, yeah. I can't remember the exact, exactly what happened. But yeah, there's a bit of a back and forth, and we kind of left it as it was. Crease collection got whitelisted, re-verified, or whatever it was, and all was fine. And then I think a couple of weeks after that, I published an article on NFT Insider, which was just kind of a personal update from me and where NFT Insider was and where I'd like to take it and all of that. And I'd mentioned somewhere in that article that I would love to be able to do this kind of thing full time. I'm spending a lot of time on evenings and weekends building this website. And it would just be great to do it full time, and hopefully through selling NFTs and doing what we were doing with our interview cards at the time will make that a possibility in future. And I published that, and Jonah, or I believe it was Jonah on the account, reached back out to me and was like, well, hey, we're growing very quickly. We obviously need a community side. We need people that know the community, interact with the community, can help build our relationship with the community. And kind of conversation started there, and it eventually led up to September 1st, 2021, where we finally put pen to paper, and AtomicHub or /PinkGG, the umbrella company, purchased NFT Insider and then hired me to be their, I can't remember what my original job title was. It was like content and community manager. It's something along those lines. Yeah. Eventually I became head of content, but that was much better in the future. So that was how I joined, and I think at the time there was less than 10 people. It was basically just Yona, Fabian, and a bunch of devs. Some front end, some back end, some DevOps, blah blah. But I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I think I would have been probably the first non-technical hire, or maybe in like the first one or two. Obviously from there I kicked off. I made the Discord, and this was obviously in the run up to November, December 21, which was the top of the market. And I still remember the days I would put an announcement in the AtomicHub Discord, and it could be for anything like, we fixed this bug, or there's a new feature, and you'd get 300 to 400 like emoji responses. And it's crazy that nowadays, it's more like 10. I think it just shows how far the NFT space has kind of declined, or how much the hype has died down since kind of late 21.
Yeah, it's changed a lot on that front, and it's hard to swallow because we talked about this perhaps even last episode, but the results that everyone was getting in Web3 weren't warranted, they weren't earned, but now they've gone. It's hard. It's hard to. I now feel like we're getting less than we deserve. Like we were getting more and now we're getting less, and it will balance out eventually. Interestingly, I was listening to a podcast earlier, a financial podcast, about a guy who essentially created Google Ads. Before it was Google Ads, it was called Double Click or something like that, and then Google bought it for $3 billion and turned it into Google Ads.
Yep.
And this guy talks about how in like '96 they just had unlimited money, unlimited clients. They had cornered the market. It was incredible. And then when the .com bubble burst, they lost 70% of their clients.
Crazy.
And so they've gone from it. It really does mirror pretty cleanly as well, where you can draw this parallel where we were all getting these. I mean, it seems flippant to talk about reactions, but it's not really. It's engagement, which is the measure of anything you do online. It is engagement. We were getting. I mean, I remember articles that I thought were just kind of pretty average, like news articles for us, were doing really, really well, and
exactly
getting crazy views, and we had so many opportunities. And I remember we were trying to hire. We were like a micro version of probably what Pink was like, and then Pink was the micro version of maybe bigger ecosystem like Polygon and stuff, where you just don't know what to do to grow quick enough because the space is moving so quickly. You just can't grow. So you basically joined at the height, or just as we were ramping into the height and the peaks.
Yep.
What's that like working at AtomicHub during that time?
Must say, I think at the time it was difficult to know that it. I mean, obviously, none of us knew that it was going to be the peak in late 21.
Yeah.
Also, we could see this huge influx of people coming in. People were, feverish for more info and projects and NFTs and what's going to be the next big thing, etc., etc., etc. And when Wax hit, what was it, 90 cents or almost 90 cents? I think at the time a lot of us thought that, it might have dipped a little bit, but it'll come back up. There's so much to look forward to, so much stuff being built. But, that's kind of when the hype fell out of the market. Also, I think internally, and I think this has been the case for a lot of my time at AtomicHub, Yona and Fabian, previous to obviously AtomicHub taking off, were just uni students in Germany, doing their degrees. Still haven't completed their degrees because they stepped back from that to
fair enough. They got sidetracked.
I mean, whether they're going back to do that now, I'm not sure. I'll probably get onto that kind of thing later on. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I saw some criticism in the community over time that we're this big company that's coming in the space, and we're not part of the community. We're just trying to extract value and all this stuff. And to be honest, it was just a passion project from two uni students and wanted to create a game.
Yeah.
Had to create a marketplace for that game. Then the marketplace took off, and all of a sudden, this marketplace is doing well. Let's carry on doing this. And then all of a sudden, you go from 2 people to having to start hiring. And then it goes to 10 people. And then all of a sudden, I think we ended up with, over the time Yona and Fabian owned the AtomicHub platform, it was something like $600 million in trading volume, which is
crazy. It is, an unthinkably large number.
It's just an unbelievable story and unbelievable journey. Anyway, it was a really strange time, and I think with the team being relatively small in 2021, eventually it would grow to 30 plus people, but at the time it was 10, 12, 15, and it was a very, very tight-knit group. I still remember us, we'd work all week and then we'd hop on and play golf with friends every Friday or something, and just do fun things that young 20-somethings do that work remotely online. It was I think it was difficult to, or at least for me anyway, it was difficult to kind of realize what a kind of a special situation that was, and that kind of everything was going so well at the time. The market was thriving, more people company's doing great. You know, we're pushing new features, updates, all this sort of thing. And it was, looking back on it, it's easy to see, wow, there was so much like amazing stuff happening at the time. But yeah, at the time, it was difficult to kind of fathom just what kind of situation we were in. So
I mean, so I obviously really like Yona and Fabian, and I really like AtomicHub. I really like lots of the people I've met working at AtomicHub over the last couple of years. But I'm trying to be as objective as possible in these questions.
Sure.
So I don't, for anyone listening, I'm not trying to be one of those contrarian or try and stir things up. I'm genuinely curious. Do you think there was a moment that things started to feel like it turned? Obviously, the market, you cannot prepare for that. I really
absolutely.
don't think you can. There's a handful of ecosystems that seem so far to be surviving it just fine, but they are enormous and have enormous funding and partnerships. Everyone else has struggled. And did you feel like, was there a moment where you're like, okay, this is getting worse, the crypto winter isn't going to end anytime soon, it's getting worse, are we in trouble? Is there anything,
I think for me personally, I was removed, and even towards the end of my tenure, really, when I was getting more involved in kind of the business development side of things, and I was still, effectively head of content, I was somewhat removed from what the actual financial situation of the company was, so it wasn't kind of something that was for me to worry about. But I guess I probably was conscious that, we've been in the crypto winter for 2+ years at this point, so it can't continue forever, sort of thing. And especially throughout 2023, we've seen quite a lot of crypto-related companies, not necessarily marketplaces, some games, some studios, some projects, some whatever it is, have to, downsize or, move on, or whatever it is. So, it probably knew it was coming, but I mean, I couldn't really pinpoint a moment where I was like, this is where things are on the downturn. I mean, even right towards the end of my time at AtomicHub, kind of late July, early August, kind of when I ceased working there, we were working on some huge things. We were talking to some, I mean, obviously, Spielworks has taken over AtomicHub now, so a lot of the plans have probably fallen by the wayside. I'm sure, just as a note, that Spielworks are doing a great job. Wombat is a well-loved kind of asset to the community. Their team is well-liked, and I'm certain that whatever they do with AtomicHub, they're going to, do things that will be of benefit to the community. But anyway, we were working on some really cool things, and it's, I can't discuss what they could have been, but it's kind of a shame that those most likely won't come to fruition now. But we were still very hopeful, both on like a product side and on the biz dev side, that there was a lot of promising things in the pipelines. We had, at that time, a team of around 30 people, but they're, 30 motivated, talented people that, really wanted to push the boundaries and, really did want to build the best marketplace possible. Obviously, as time moved on, I think early in 2021, it's very much, hey, we'll just build what we want. And I think by the time the company got to like 30 people and, you've got responsibility for people's wages, it's kind of like, okay, legally, what do we need to do here? How do we protect this long term? Like, do we need to make changes to the platform to ensure the safety of, not just our staff, but of the community's assets and community's wallets and all this kind of thing? So, some changes, unfortunately, had to be made with kind of legal constraints in mind. But I think throughout the entire time of me being at AtomicHub, the main goal was always just to build the best platform we could and the best services we could, and for NFT Insider to be the best media outlet that it could be. It was never let's extract as much money as we can out of this, blah, 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 blah. It was a crazy 2 years, put it that way. But I couldn't really pinpoint an exact point that things started to look bad. But obviously, crypto winter has been bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're a company that's paying a lot of money in server fees and hosting fees and salaries and all that kind of thing, that unless you can find some cash, it's kind of difficult to keep that kind of thing going. So
yeah, I think it's worth mentioning as well, for anyone who hasn't tried to legitimately build something in Web3. You'll see a lot of projects. I'm not going to name them. There's one in the Wax ecosystem that we all know very well, but it's easy to build stuff and not be legitimate. Try and keep things off book. Don't register anything. But if you try and build something and follow all the rules, and the rules are being written as we're speaking.
Yes. Yeah.
It's tremendously difficult, and I can't imagine the pressure Jonah and Fabian would have felt when the marketplace took off and they realized that there's a lot of money flowing through what they've created, and they do have a sense of responsibility for it, and suddenly you have to get serious about the legality of it. And the lack of regulations makes it all the worse, where there's things. Trust me, if you don't care about regulations, which I don't blame you at all, trust me when I say some of the stuff just doesn't make any sense. I mean, in the UK, there's things at the moment where as of January, I can't do giveaways in the UK of NFTs. I can't do it. Even though it doesn't cost anything it's never cost anything to enter our competitions. And even though what we're giving away entirely for free, it's not even sponsored, like a sponsored giveaway. There's no money changing hands whatsoever. We're just giving away NFTs from a game or whatever. We can't do that from January because of regulations. Because you end up getting caught in a net that was thrown at someone else. Like they're trying to catch this sneaky little shark that's robbing people. And then I'm sitting on the bank and I just get cattled by a net that's nothing to do with me. And so we can't do giveaways anymore. And the point I'm making here is, imagine running one of the biggest Web3 marketplaces in the world. Imagine how many nets are going to be coming at your head that you've got to try and dodge. And I think it is tremendously difficult to build something that size. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, imagine how much money they made. And a lot of people look at the guilds and how much money you make as a block producer, but there's so many overheads, particularly as you mentioned, servers and things.
I think just to add on the money front, because again, as you say, it's something that's kind of floated around the community a lot, that how much money it would have been made. As I say, I was like a step removed from what the actual financial situation was, but I'm pretty confident with my 2 years of experience working alongside Jonah and Fabian and the wider team, that pretty much everything the company made was put back into the company. I don't know what people's exact salaries were, but I can say for certain, Jonah and Fabian weren't paying themselves $1 million salaries or anything ridiculous, and that's probably a testament to how the business kept going with as many staff for as long as it did. I think if there was huge swathes of being money taken out, I don't think the company as it was would have lasted all the way till late summer 2023, and we did see a lot of companies go on doing kind of late 22, early 23, where presumably they were taking out silly amounts of money and then couldn't afford to pay anyone anymore. So
okay, I've got a hard question for you now.
Go for it.
That you're woefully unqualified to answer, but I don't care because you did. I don't think you actually heard that, which is perfect timing.
I didn't, which is great.
You can watch that back. That's fine. Do you think, just your opinion, do you think that Pink filing for bankruptcy was as a result of mistakes made, or just inevitability in sign of the times, crypto winter, and so on?
I think if anything is at all quote unquote to blame, it would be the market conditions and the fact we've been in a crypto winter for 2 years. I am obviously, being a part of the company, I'm aware of certain decisions that were made, blah 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 blah, but I don't think any of them were as impactful as the fact that just the market's been terrible for the last 2 years. And I think if we'd seen some signs of life in the markets and in the wider Web3 space, both in a monetary, how are these tokens doing, but also in a regulatory, okay, how long is it going to take governments and regulatory bodies to actually wrap their heads around and get proper regulation in place and points of view. I think there could have been some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. But I mean, if you look at 2023 as a whole, not much has really happened in Web3, as much as it pains me to say it. There's not been many like huge moments, or there's not been many things that cause upticks in the market other than the Ripple decision, but that's very specific to one token. It's been a lot of doom and gloom, quite frankly. So and so exchange is a crock of shit. So and so company is a crock of shit. Oh, this project's a rug pull. This blah 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 blah. And even the NFTs, the bigger NFTs in the Ethereum space that people know and love, your Bored Apes, your Cool Cats, your Punks, etc., have all gone down in price. Partly because of obviously crypto going down, but also they've gone down in price themselves. I mean, I've said before about how my Cool Cat was 2 ETH when I bought it, and now I checked it yesterday, it's less than half an ETH, which is painful, but it is what it is. I think ultimately it's just the way the market's gone. And I mean, I've already said I think AtomicHub did very well to last in its structure under Pink for as long as it did, with the market conditions as they were. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a huge shame because Yona and Fabian, as we said, they were great people to work with. Will I end up working with them again on something in future? I have no idea. I imagine they're probably going to go back to uni and finish their degrees at the moment. I don't know. I don't know what their plans are at the moment.
It's quite the CV. building a company. I took a year out or 2 years out to build a company that had 600 million flowing through it or whatever. Like it's It's that's a hell of a CV to put, no matter what you end up doing. So I think there's a side question here which I've only really just thought of, and it's not really about AtomicHub per se, but in general Web3 companies. I wonder if survival. A lot of companies have gone. Token Gamer's done this. This is what I wanted Token Gamer to do. Survival at all costs, right? Where we had, I think at one point we had about 12 people working for us. We had developers on the app, we had streamer, we had writers, we had all these different people. So we weren't 30 plus, and they weren't full time. Every single one of them was freelancing for us. Well, actually, that's not true, but almost all of them were freelancing. And I wanted to survive at all costs, right? So just keep stripping back until we literally cannot go under. It's just not possible. We'll just sit like a little turquoise cockroach. I just wanted to keep moving forward. Turquoise, because that's a brand color, by the way. And I stand by that decision, and I will continue to work on this pod. I will continue to write for Token Gamer. I will continue to do what I do, and I just can't see it ending anytime soon. I will just keep doing it. But a lot of companies have done this. A lot of companies have stripped back. A lot of games have stripped back to the bare bones. And I think there comes a question of, is survival, but at what cost? Is there a point where there's no point to you surviving? Because what are you surviving for? Like I just from my point of view, I still see what I do as working indefinitely. And if we see another massive uptick in Web3, which I think will come, if we see a massive uptick in Web3, I will feel perfectly positioned. So I feel like what I'm doing isn't kind of like, what's the point? Because even if I'm wrong, like we still do decent view numbers. So I'm fine with where we are now. And if it goes an uptick, then brilliant. So I think what stripping back to survive works for us. But would it have worked for something like Atomic, where if you just keep stripping back till there's nothing left just to survive to the next bull run, is there a point to that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult. As I said earlier, even in my last few days and weeks working with the company, we had some huge projects that we were looking to get off the ground, huge partnerships we were looking to flesh out that I think could have been very impactful for the Wax blockchain. But you need staff to do that.
Yeah.
And if you downsize from 30-ish people to, let's say, for example, 5, all of a sudden you don't have the extra capacity to go pursue big partnerships or big new projects or anything like that. It's just, here's a platform, let's just fix bugs, get through support tickets, and that's about it. I know that since Spielworks has published AtomicHub, I believe some people have been retained from the original team, although it is a much reduced setup, let's say. So I've already said I'm sure Spielworks have their own ideas for what they like to do with AtomicHub, and I'm sure they'll do a great job of it. But it is a much smaller team now than it was before. So it's tricky. Yes, you can downsize, but then let's say you downsize and all of a sudden the market ticks up again, and then oh god, we need 30 people and we've got 6.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell do we do now? So I think it's one of those things where you've always got to be prepared, I guess. And you can be hopeful that markets will recover, etc. But as with anything in any kind of business, it's just how much risk are you prepared to take. You can run businesses incredibly safely, but then you're really limiting your growth and you're limiting the potential. Or you could be super, super, super risky and either become a unicorn or die in 2 months. So it's.
I feel like Atomic did kind of go all in, because when a lot of companies during the winter, when a lot of companies were, receding and trying to survive, it seemed like AtomicHub. You launched Atomic Ads. It seemed as if Atomic was investing, or Pink was investing in growth rather than admitting that perhaps we have to fall back to fight another day. Do you think that's true, or do you think that it was just part of the plan anyway?
I think it was probably part of the plan that we'd always want to, expand and genuinely continue to create the best marketplace that we can. Obviously, partway through 2023, we released the Launchpad, which obviously there was a financial aspect to that for AtomicHub. Obviously, we took a cut of the sales that went through that outlet, but for some of the potential partners we were working with, or were going to work with, or were in the process of perhaps working with, that was almost a necessity. It was something we kind of had to do, and we were building it anyway. Why not let some creators in the community use it as well, and we'll put our promotional weight behind it. I think Atomic Ads. I still think Atomic Ads has a very the idea of Atomic Ads is very promising, insofar as the large ad networks are still very hesitant to touch anything Web3 related. So there is absolutely a gap in the market for
I think
Web3
just changing, aren't they, on that front?
Only just, yeah. So it could be that space just gets taken over by Google anyway. But I think at the time we were conceptualizing it and building it out, it was very much something that could have done very well. And had we proliferated it across the Web3 space more, than it could have been both kind of a vital tool for Web3 brands and creators, but also something that could generate some revenue to keep the company going, quite frankly. So obviously with any business, you have to do what you have to do to keep the money flowing in. Because you've got to keep existing, quite frankly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're making decisions that are anti-customer or anti-consumer. I think the number one priority was always just to create the best product we could. And if you need to branch into other directions to help support making that your goal, then that's kind of what you have to do. I don't think we ever really did anything. There's nothing AtomicHub ever did that, or any changes that we made or any features that we developed that were anti-consumer kind of because we wanted them to be. A lot of the changes had to be made, of course, because of legal things and because you need to protect your back, and changes. And it's a lot of those changes. I mean, I can't speak for Jonas and Fabian, but they were unpopular changes. But it's unfortunately trying to, panic over legal legislation and things. It gets you wrapped up in circles pretty quickly. So, but yeah.
I have 2 more questions for you, I think, in this unusual format of Rob interviewing John. So one, I know of, obviously we won't share them. I don't know if we can share them anyway, but there were a lot of things in the works, a lot of those major moves that Atomic was doing with other entities. Do you think that it's just purely conjecture, but as a little thought experiment, if the timeline had shifted and perhaps those things had started a year before they did, do you think it would have changed the outcome?
Almost certainly, yes.
Really?
I think if we were able to get over the line with, I think, some of the things we're working on, some of the people we're talking to, for example, then I think it could have been a very different scenario. Obviously, the very first drop that was on the launch pad was Ultraman. We had similar things of that ilk, let's say. Right. I mean, obviously, I can't name names or anything like that, but we were looking to work with big brands and to help them enter Web3 in whatever form that was, whether it's with NFTs or collectibles or whatever it was, and that's something we really pushed hard. And it's always going to be one of those things in the back of my mind. I was like, I wonder what would have happened if we were able to do this, or we're able to put pen to paper and get this off the ground, because we were getting to fairly advanced stages with some of these people. We're starting to talk about concepts and what we could use and this sort of thing. It's a shame. But it is always sad when that comes, and it was a bit of a harsh question, really, because it's a fair question, though. It's always sad, though. I think, as it was with, when any business goes under, it just tends to be a culmination of lots of things happening at very inopportune times. And with AtomicHub, it was a combination of the market conditions and the Wax token not doing so well right now, and a lot of, if this had just come 3 months sooner, then things could be very different. But
you never really know, because imagine you got what you wanted and it happened and everything. You got this inpouring of money. Judging by what you've said so far, Yona and Fabian would have invested that in more growth.
Probably.
So you could have ended up in just the same place, but in a grander way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many what ifs.
Of course.
Business and in life. So, but again, I think everyone that worked at AtomicHub through that time, obviously I can't speak for them, but they'd probably have round about the same things to say that I have, that if, it was a pleasant place to be, and we were all working towards making the Wax community and, beyond that, the wider Web3 space, or trying to give everyone the best marketplace they could. So
I haven't seen anyone really spurned. Do you know what I mean? Usually when a company goes, it went bankrupt, but it was bought, so it's perhaps not quite as devastating as going bankrupt and just dissolving. But I haven't seen anyone furious, spurned ex-employees going mad because they were poorly treated, or
I think the most important thing from a community point of view is that the marketplace itself, AtomicHub, is still around.
Absolutely essential. And the Wax as a whole.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that NFT Blocks is bad or NFT Hive is bad or Chain Champs is bad. No, they are very credible alternatives that are very popular, that have some great teams behind them. I have nothing ill to say about them. But I think the more choice people have, the better. Especially AtomicHub being the biggest player marketplace-wise in the Wax space in particular, but also starting to become part of the IMX and the Ethereum spaces. I think it was very important that AtomicHub kept going, and I think that's probably the biggest positive of Spielworks stepping in to purchase AtomicHub is that it's still around and people can still use it. And even if you haven't heard the news, or even if you don't have social media at all, the only change you will have really seen on AtomicHub is you log in, and instead of getting ads for AtomicHub's social medias, you're getting ads for Wombat. And the fact that it's been that seamless for the community is a huge plus.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. I have one more question, and it's regarding NFT Insider, because you started that, you sold it to Pink, but then you were hired to keep running it. You were editor-in-chief at it. You had writers, including me. I was writing for it. What is the situation with NFT Insider? I know a lot of people, you've got a big old fan base, always done well on Google SEO, just as an aside, like you always ranked pretty well, big following on Twitter, on socials, active Discord. I checked the other day, there's basically been nothing since you left Pink, there's been nothing. Do you know anything that's happening? What's going on with that?
So NFT Insider as a brand was purchased by Pink.gg. Pink.gg was, I believe, the company that went bankrupt, and Spielworks has purchased AtomicHub, but they have not purchased NFT Insider. I think the best way of describing where NFT Insider is at the moment is it's kind of in a weird state of limbo. I believe, or it may still be under the bankruptcy administrators. So it's not that it's sitting there waiting for someone to buy it. I believe there was some interest, but I am not privy to who's interested in it or any of that, because I didn't put a bid in myself. So it's in an odd place. Although I think if I get the chance to reacquire NFT Insider, I may consider it, but if I'm being brutally honest, I don't have much of an interest in continuing to run it and having it back as a one-man band, so to speak. With NFT Insider in the space it is right now, especially because I haven't been making any content for it for the best part of 2 months. To take it from what it is right now back into an entity that is generating enough revenue to at least pay for my rent and for my food is, it's a journey. It's not something that would happen immediately. And, that's something that I'd have to spend several months of grinding out articles and videos and trying to make NFT Insider something that can cover my bills again. And right now, with Web3 in the space that it's in, I think that would be pretty difficult to do. That's not to say that I don't think NFT Insider has value. I think it has a lot of value. At one point in time, we had 5 people working on NFT Insider. Myself, Saskia, Zach, Addy, and Jens, and they were a fantastic team. We were a fantastic team. They were brilliant people to work with. I think we were doing pretty well on the content front.
I'd love to hoover them all up. I really would. I'd love to just hoovered them and put them in place.
It was such a great group of people to work with on a daily basis, and have some great memories of working together, both remotely and in person. So but I if it was to fall back into my hands, it would become a one-man band again. And whereas that is something that if I could go back to August 2021, and if I'd kept it on just myself, and maybe that is a challenge I'd be willing to take on. But we've been in this kind of death knell downward spiral for about 2 years now, and it's would I want to take on that challenge again? I doubt it. So for me now, I'm open to new opportunities. There's a few things that obviously I'm very interested in, not necessarily Web3 as well. I mean, obviously I'm sat in front of a sim racing wheel, so that's probably part of it. And what some of you have probably seen, I've been trying to build a platform called TopSplit, topsplit.gg. He's got a YouTube channel. We make sim racing videos, racing game content, all of that kind of thing. And that's kind of what I've been keeping myself busy with over the last, pretty much ever since I left Pink, really.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, let's see if I can build effectively the same thing in a different industry. So that's what I've been keeping myself busy with. But I'm open-minded. I'm looking for whatever my next big kind of work passion will be. So this probably wasn't how we envisioned ending this episode, but if you're watching this, why
not?
And you're looking for someone to help out on a biz dev side, a content side, a marketing side, community side, whatever it is, I'm open to new things. So that's where we are. I don't know what will happen to NFT Insider, quite frankly. I've heard basically nothing for the past few weeks. So, I mean, if anything does happen, I'll probably be one of the first people to tell you, if I can tell you. But yeah, right now it seems like it's kind of done, which is a shame. But it is the end of a 2.5 year journey for that website, and I think we can really celebrate what we achieved and what we did in that time, and the community we built and the friends we made, and blah de la de da, all that bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were just looking at it objectively, even if it just disappears now, it wasn't a waste in any way, shape, or form. You built it, you sold it, you then got a job, a very good job, off the back of it, which you helped build AtomicHub as a whole and the community and stuff. So it was valuable nonetheless. But it is sad to see it go, especially because it was, I think, such an interesting voice on the NFT topic, which I think a lot of the NFT websites were just and are just shill merchants, which is why a lot of them are doing so poorly now, because the NFT market is in the bin and shilling isn't working, and they didn't have that's why I used to come to you and say, here's an idea, I want to write an article on this, because you guys tend to focus on more editorial, interesting perspective stuff, which a lot of places don't. So I think it's a shame that that's gone. But maybe someone will realize that and they'll grab it and integrate it into whatever they're doing. But
we'll see.
We will see. Okay, well, that was I don't know what we're going to title this episode, yeah?
I have no idea.
We could go really about clickbaity if we wanted to. Really clickbaity.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's been about 45 minutes of just me rambling for the most part, but I think it was nice to kind of recap the past 2 years and my experience being a part of the AtomicHub team, and Jesus, I'm recovering from what I believe is COVID, if anyone's worrying why I'm coughing so much. So I apologize for anyone's ears that I've blown out through this episode. But anyway, it was good to revisit the good times, and that's I was with Pink / AtomicHub for 2 years, and I think I'll always cherish those 2 years of working with the team and building it, and everything we were able to accomplish in that time I think was great. So I think now it's time to move on to new things. What those new things will be, I have no idea, but let's wait and see.
Okay, well, where can people find you? You and you alone.
Absolutely. So for me personally, it is at Hydropowerd, HYDROPWRD on everything. If you want to watch, read, explore the content I'm currently making that's all sim racing related, you can head to topsplit.gg or at topsplitgg on every social media. It's mostly me embarrassing myself with how often I crash and doing really cringy commentary over my races. So if you want to experience that, then you can go look that up. Rob, where can we find you?
Sounds good. TokenGamer.io is where we put all our blockchain gaming and gaming tech news. Not to blow. I mean, we've done 80 episodes now. This is episode 80. Actually, we've done 80. This is the 83rd because we've done some unnumbered.
We have
unnumbered. And I think this is the first time I've properly blown a content trumpet for myself. But over this week and going into next week, so like a 2-week stint, we've got some crazy content, some really strong pieces have come out. And we've got a piece coming out early next week, which is, I can't believe I'm working with them on this because it's insane. It's really, really big. And I'm not definitely like I'll get sued if I say anything else. So I can't say anything now, but there's a major piece of blockchain gaming news coming out next week. So keep an eye on tokengamer.io for that. I also, before we go, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. I also wanted to point out that we had a lovely review that I stumbled across.
We did?
There was, in the news, there was a website about podcasts, and it has loads of information on podcasts, and I clicked it, and obviously I thought, well, let's see if we're on there, and we are on there. And it said, it's got a little section called external reviews, and a guy called John 838383, very catchy name, said, love these dudes, best in Web3 news, Wax Blockchain represent, and 5 stars. I mean, John 838383, you're a gentleman, and it really does help when people leave these ratings and reviews. It sounds like just old shilly bollocks that people do at the start and end of every podcast and everything they ever do, but it makes a difference. Like, people look at reviews. If you see a podcast that you've never heard of, you'll look at reviews, you'll look at what rating it's got, you look at how many listens it's got, and bits and pieces in their social media. So we can control some of that, but we can't control the reviews and comments and things. So if you can do it, if you can spare 15 seconds, I have to resist going my usual route of who can't do this? Why aren't you doing this for me? But it really, really does help. So thank you, John 838383. I really appreciate that. And that was last week. So we haven't done an episode since I've seen that. So I just thought I'd bring that up. I think that's everything.
Cool.
Shall I do a rare outro?
Oh, go on.
Let's do it. That was episode 80 in brackets 83 of the Mint One podcast, where we discussed with John his exit from AtomicHub /ping.gg /NFT Insider. And we want you to follow, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Comment anyone you want us to interview. We've got some great interviews coming up, by the way. John doesn't even know some of them. I've been raging them on the side. But we got some really good guests in the blockchain space and the Web3 space coming on podcast soon. So yes, like, follow, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Love you very much, and tune in next week.